So we have spent $60,000 and 4 months putting these engines into this boat. And we've just made the decision to pull them back out in the next 2 weeks. When we originally bought Tangaroa, she had 2 Detroit diesel 12V71 engines, and they ran. I mean, it was actually pretty amazing. They had been sitting for 7 years, I would assume somewhere around there, and they were pretty easy to get fired up and running. I mean, as easy as a Detroit diesel can be in January, but they ran. We drove the boat all the way down from Wrangell, Alaska to Victoria with these engines. Once we got back to Victoria, I put my focus into trying to figure out what to do with these big engines. They needed maintenance in a big way. There were leaks everywhere. And when I say leaks, monstrous leaks. I had so much oil in the bilge. The bilge was disgusting with oil, grease, nasty, watery grossness, which nobody likes. So I started to figure out how I could not only maintain these engines and get them to stop leaking oil, but how I could make them better. This is technology that was developed back in World War II, maybe even a little bit before. And obviously we got some technology these days that could be applied to these engines to make them more efficient. I had common rail conversion. Nobody makes it. It would be something I would have had to have built. Doing modern superchargers on them for more efficiency. Doing turbochargers on them as well, which would be a big help too. So I started to kind of add all this stuff up, and I'm looking, like, why? Why am I going to put all this effort into these? And I'm positive one of the engines required a rebuild, and after disassembling, that was true. So it just didn't make sense to spend all of that money on trying to make something better that was obviously never going to get to the point where I wanted them. All right, first thing before I get started on any projects, we're gonna clean this engine room and bilge area. So we started making the decision to look into other options. First and foremost, I needed something modern. I am a big modern engine guy. Many of you guys already know this. I've been in the industry for quite a while, both the marine industry and the automotive industry, and I've got a pretty high comfort level with electronic engines. So I knew the benefits that I was after for quiet running, efficiency, and quite honestly, a lot of you guys are gonna cringe at this because I know you old mechanical diesel guys, ease of maintenance. I needed something that was easy to work on and had a smaller maintenance footprint. So we decided on Dodge 6.7 engines. Well, I should say Cummins 6.7 engines. We ended up going with the Dodge versions because they were readily available. So we took these engines and we made them marine engines. We swapped out all the components that differentiated the two, pistons, injectors, camshafts, valves, you name it. We kind of went through the whole engine, stripped them down to nothing, and rebuilt what we have here today. And got these in, like I said earlier in the video, this was roughly around $60,000, $65,000 and tons of time. It wasn't just the 4 months at the yard, it was time spent at my shop putting these things together and making sure they worked for what we needed them to do. At this point, we have roughly around 4,000 nautical miles on these engines. And other than some minor issues at the beginning, they've been phenomenal. And when I say minor issues, we had some ECU stuff when we were first installing them, not necessarily to do with the engine, just the combination of parts that I use, because I can't do anything the easy way. I got to make it complicated. So we ran aftermarket ECUs, and there were some not compatibility issues, but let's just say that the Cummins engines, the injectors, they use a little bit more power than what normally be used in those ECUs. So they required a little bit of changes, but in the end, that all worked out quite well, and they have been phenomenal ever since. We had some fuel rail leaks, which we've resolved. Had a transmission solenoid, just a rusty connector, pretty simple, and had an oil leak on the front timing cover on Stella here. But honestly, all pretty easy stuff to sort out, and they have been great otherwise. Not only did these engines run well, two of the main benefits on these is A, they were quiet. We cut our sound level in half on these engines. So that really makes a lot of good comfort up in the pilot house when you're trying to talk to other people, and you can do so without having to raise your voice. Secondly, exactly half of the fuel burn. So to do the exact same things on the boat, which is for us going 9 knots comfortably, the Cummins do that at half the fuel burn. Half. So if you're paying a fuel bill and you're traveling a lot of miles, that's a big, big thing. So one of the main reasons why we put the Cummins 6.7s in over the original Detroit 12V71s is fuel burn. There's a pretty drastic difference. So we know that around the 1500 RPM range, which is where we cruise at for 9 knots, that we get 4.5 gallons per hour combined, or 2.2 gallons per hour per engine. But we haven't done a lot of extensive testing above that at other ranges. So just going to do a little bit of testing here and see kind of what we're dealing with the new engines compared to the old ones. So with the old engines, we really only had 2 data points. One was 12 knots and one was 9 knots. For the 9 knots, we would burn 9 gallons an hour. So we have cut that fuel consumption in half. So now we're going to test a little bit higher. So we're going to push the boat up to 12 knots, which is always a little bit of a tough thing to hit perfectly because you never know what currents you're dealing with. But right now we seem to be lined up pretty well with 9 knots at 1500 RPM. So it's a good time for us to test those 12 knot ranges. One of the things that we touched on briefly when we originally installed the engines is you also want to make sure that you're not overloading the existing engines. So our Cummins 6.7s, we have a peak RPM of 2400, 2600 RPM. One of the things that you want to make sure is that the engine is able to meet or exceed that at wide open throttle. So this is a pretty quick test. We're just going to ramp the throttles up and make sure that they will exceed that point, and then we'll bring it back down to our cruise speed and prep for the next test. So for all of our testing that we're doing here today, we're going to do it all on the starboard engine. And the reason why I'm doing that is because that engine has got a higher load on it. There's one more gear change inside of the transmission that's happening on that engine. So it's got a naturally higher load. It's naturally burning a little bit more fuel. So I know my port engine is always going to be less than what we're burning on the starboard engine. So rather than focusing on 2, we're just going to focus on 1. So for starters, let's go ahead and do that wide open throttle test. So we want to target 2600. Let's target 2600 RPM. We know if we hit 2600, we're good. So that's the top left gauge, and here we go. Or maybe 2400 RPM. Because that's where I've got our limit set. So there you have it. I can hit 2400 RPM, and I'm pretty sure, if I'm not mistaken, I've actually got a limiter set on the engines that won't allow them to go above that. So that's why it locked right at 2400 RPM. So yeah, we're good there. All right, so first test for fuel consumption, and we've done this one a bit, but 1500 RPM. So I've got both engines at 1500 RPM, and if you look here at the screen, we are burning 2.1 to 2.2 gallons per hour. and we're currently doing 8.9 knots. Port engine is showing 2.0 to 2.1. So we're doing good there. That's fantastic compared to where we were before. So let's move on to the next test. Okay, so we'll jump right ahead to 1800 RPM. That's the next kind of break point here. And we'll have another look at that fuel burn number. Here we go. Okay, we are sitting at 1800 RPM on both engines, and we have got 3.5 on the starboard engine and 3.4 on the port engine. So we'd be looking at 6.9 gallons per hour at 1800 RPM. Still pretty good. Okay, so the last test that we're going to do here is at 2200 RPM, which should, I believe, get us our 12 knots. So here we go. Okay, that's 2200 RPM, and we've got 5.9 gallons per hour on Stella.
What's our speed?
And 5.3 on Porsche. And our speed is 12.1 knots. Okay, so that was our test at 2200 RPM, and we had 6 gallons per hour on Stella, and we had 5.9 on Porsche. That gives us a total of 11.9 gallons per hour, with the Detroits doing 16. Now you'll notice the disparity isn't as good there for like at 1500 RPM, we're half the fuel burn. That disparity goes away a little bit at higher speeds. That's because the Detroits work better at higher speeds. They have a better brake-specific fuel consumption. So not as good, but still, that is 5 gallons an hour difference or 4 gallons an hour difference between the Detroits and the Cummins at the favorable speed for the Detroits. So at the end of the day, sum up this project, the Detroits were good engines. Don't get me wrong. They have had an incredible lifespan. They are super popular in a lot of places, but they are no longer a great engine. Time has left them behind. It's getting harder to find parts for them. Parts are expensive. And while they are simple in operational principle, they are by no means a simple engine. Those are a very complex engine. You've got 2 superchargers, 12 cylinders, gaskets out the wazoo. They are big. They are difficult to keep from leaking. Some people claim to be able to do so. I'm not 100% going to believe that, but yes, they do require a considerable amount of maintenance. They burn twice as much fuel. They go through twice as much oil, and that's not just in leaks. They literally hold twice as much oil as these engines do. So yeah, they are not ideal for the type of cruising that we want to do, especially when we're doing big miles. That half fuel consumption, that goes a long way, twice as long. So Cummins, so far, they've been phenomenal, short of some growing pains with the configuration that I've run with. Right at the very beginning, they have been great since. They've been quiet, they have been comfortable, they've been easy to work on. Maintenance is super simple, super clean. Very, very, very happy with how they have run. And at the time that we did this install, this was absolutely the right decision for Tangaroa. So this is going to be the third version of the Tangaroa engine room in 6 years. And each time, it's been for the better. So I'm going to tell you guys a little story. I had a good friend in Brentwood Bay that shared a dock with another boat. And he had tried to get me for quite some time to go by and have a look at this other boat. He said, you know what, this guy's got a really cool project on the go. You should check it out. You would like it. So unfortunately, for me, I don't get really excited about projects because in the boating world, in the car world as well, you see a lot of people doing projects that just don't survive reality. And it's not that I didn't want to go by and check it out. it's just one of those things that it was on a back burner for me, and I just never made the time. I made an assumption. You know, you get a lot of people that are doing stuff on boats, and they just don't seem to survive the real world. I made an assumption, and that assumption cost us $60,000. So obviously, these engines are still in here. This is a very important decision. We want to make sure that we have thought about everything on this before we pull these out, because once they come out, there's no going back. Now, you guys had expressed some concern or annoyance that the last time we did this, you didn't have the ability to give feedback on the process. So this time around, we're going to be recording every bit of this, and it's all going to be in real time. You guys are going to be able to put in your comments, add any recommendations, and we're going to take everything into account. We're going to be doing 3 videos a week and 1 live every Monday, just to make sure that you guys are heard. So please subscribe, and if you want to be involved in this project, send us a comment, and we promise we're going to read every one of them. While I tend to not like making decisions unless they are going to be permanent long-term ones, and you guys have seen in the past, that's not always the case with me. Sometimes you have things come around that maybe alter your thinking of what's going to be best for the future. And we've pretty much learned at this point that keeping these engines in just wasn't the right idea for what we were after. We've got an opportunity that is really going to work better for what we're after long term. And it's going to be a much more inclusive setup than what we had originally planned and what we've got here currently. It's really going to fix a lot of problems that have been driving me nuts, and it's quite exciting. Some of you are going to think we're crazy, and let's be honest, we are. I think that is a known thing. And some of you think we should just continue on with the Great Siberian Sushi Run, which is also not a bad idea. Some of you, specifically our online crew, know what's going on. So next week, we're going to get into why we've made this choice, what's changing, and why the Cummins have to come out.